Noel is a medical engineer. He rebuilds animals using the most sophisticated technology available.
People have no idea, absolutely no idea whatsoever what we do.
For many of these animals and their owners, Noel is their last hope.
He truly will become bionic.
Well, he is the Bionic Vet, that's what we call him, and here he is himself. We're going to talk about Charlie the dog, who's with his owner McMallon's very shortly. But Noel, how many people like you, or the clinics like you run in Godalming, are there in the country?
There are lots of places that you can take your dog when they have orthopedic or neurology problems, which is what I do. But what we specifically do is we treat the problems that perhaps is perceived that it can't be treated, or it's perceived that perhaps it's difficult to treat.
Yeah. Now, what got you into this? Because, you know, certainly when I was growing up and there was an injury to an animal, and we all see race horses where this happens to them, whatever, and people say, oh, well, you're being cruel to the animal.
Yeah,
be kinder. You obviously, somewhere in your professional or personal career, didn't subscribe to that.
Well, I grew up on a farm. I actually have a very pragmatic attitude to the whole situation here, and I just perceived from a very early age that it was my job to provide pain-free, functional quality of life. Genuinely, I mean, I thought, okay, here's...
The way a doctor would.
Yes, here's a lamb suffering, or a calf suffering, where I grew up. And people who don't have an empathy with animals find this very, very difficult to accept. I mean, where is the line that you draw here? What I would say in that regard is that the affection that I have for my dog, or that Mick has for his dog, is an enormous statement of unconditional love. I mean, it truly is. Probably the only way that some people experience unconditional love.
Yes.
And that kind of bond is not to be underestimated. And furthermore, I think it's the mark of a civilized society that we stand up for that unconditional love, that we genuinely think, you know what? Yes. There is a meaning to life. There is a meaning to that kind of life in the animals.
You want to do everything you can. Then,
not everything.
Well, as much as you can.
I think as long as it's ethically and morally acceptable. Not everything. There is a line.
And Charlie was saying unconditional love, and he's absolutely beautiful. You had him from a puppy. So tell us what happened to Charlie.
Well, Charlie, my wife Louise took Charlie out for a walk, quite a long walk one day with fairly active people, and he developed, at the end of that evening, he developed a bit of a limp and a mouth on him. But he developed a bit of a limp, and we just thought he's injured himself on the run. So we'll give it a couple of days, see how he gets on. And it developed. The limp didn't go away, so we took him to the vets. Long story, but biopsy found the fact that he had a cancerous tumour in his wrist. And it was growing. He was 18 months old, and it was growing at a rapid rate of knots. I mean, I couldn't get my hand around the tumour at one stage, towards the end, before Noel operated. And the prognosis wasn't good. It was you've got 3 months. With amputation, initially, was the advice we were given. And we found out through a friend, found Noel through a friend, and said, look, can you give us a second opinion? Can you confirm or give us a way forward here?
And what was your opinion? What was the prognosis with you?
Well, I think here's the big crux of the issue. A lot of people will say, why don't you just put Charlie to sleep? Why don't you just chop his leg off? Well, you know what? Eamon, you look at him. You put him to sleep. You know, anybody who says that, I don't think they quite get what we're trying to do here.
Leave it up to people like you.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is, you know, it's so tough, but the great thing is there are people in life who do the dirty work, and you would be one of those.
And I think there are times where you need to put a patient to sleep, sadly.
Yeah.
And there are times where you need to chop a leg off. In last week's programme, for example, we had to chop a leg off.
What I find fascinating about this, Noel, is that for the first time that I'm aware, I begin to see a blending or a moulding of veterinary medicine and mainstream medicine. So you approach this the way a doctor would approach dealing with a human.
Yes, and I very much believe in one life, one medicine. Number one, I believe that animals are sentient, they have feelings. But moreover, I believe that if human doctors and veterinary doctors work closely together, everybody wins. There's no loser here. The fact that I would take Charlie's leg and put a big chunk of metal in here to replace a tumour and make him run around gathering sticks means that you could have that technology too.
And from your point of view, Mick, this is your job. I mean, you work with amputees, you know what's involved in this situation, and now you see this working at this level. How exciting is that for you?
Well, it's great. Well, actually, part of my job, I'm in the forces, and part of my job is, or a volunteer part of it, is teaching some of our injured soldiers and servicemen how to dive. So I'm involved with amputees from time to time, and my answer is, if you ask any of those guys whether technology could give them a new leg, and make their life a little bit easier along the way, then why not?
What's that dog's quality of life?
Fantastic.
Really?
He's up at 6 in the morning, his nose is in my face, waiting to go for a walk. He will run around for an hour without any problem whatsoever. And he comes to work with me. He's doted on me all at work, and his head's in every bin going. And yeah, he's great, absolutely great. Normal.
He's gorgeous. You are gorgeous, but there's another gorgeous dog who's at Jolly the Spaniel, and we're going to see him tonight. So should we just have a look at him while I give you a stroke? Yes, okay, let's have a look. Look, he's up there.
Can rotate in any direction around the upper segment. Because it's like a ball in a socket.
Using pins, nuts, bolts, arches, carbon fibre rods and hinges, Noel begins to construct the external frames. Unlike the external fixing he's used in other operations, this frame will have to do much more than simply hold the bones together. It will need to be tensioned and carefully rotated to correct the original deformity and maintain the correct alignment.
It's amazing watching you now, because I look and think that it's like my dad's shed. You've got all these little boxes with nuts and bolts and bits and bobs. I mean, it's kind of engineering as well as...
But at what price? At what price? I mean, is that the sort of surgery and technology that, you know, most people could afford?
It's a marriage of engineering and biology, and it's for creating a quality of life. Now, is that right? Only an individual in an individual set of circumstances can decide that. In terms of at what price is a very difficult question, because what price can you put on that particular patient?
Well, obviously some people will be prepared to pay it, but just to give people an idea, that the sort of operation that Charlie's
Well, in any of these situations, I mean, I have in my pocket here a total hip replacement for a dog. Right?
I need one of those.
So this is a total hip replacement for a dog, okay? And I will do that routinely every week. So the kind of operation that Charlie has, and that a total hip replacement in a dog costs, is in the region of £4,000.
Yeah.
So those kinds of operations are routine every day in the UK. The fact that Charlie had an operation which is pushing the boundaries is just an extension of that. And it's your decision, it's your dog. I just give you the options. That's my job.
But it's clearly a passion for you as well.
Well, he's a pioneer, Mick. How would you describe this man?
Also, you've hit the nail on the head. They're an absolute pioneer. I mean, there's nowhere else I've heard of in the country who's doing the same thing to animals.
But do you hope it will be something that other people will take up, that you would teach other people?
Well, absolutely. What I hope is that animals are treated with the kind of respect that they deserve, and that everybody has all of the options. It's not my choice or my decision what people want to do. It's my job to give them all the options, and they can choose for themselves. And I hope, my vision is that human doctors and veterinary doctors will work together so that animals and humans can make progress much quicker. Amputees can have solutions much quicker. We take these devices, we put them in dogs, we put them in cats, we put them in humans. There's not that much difference. If you're on all fours, it's going to be not that much difference. So yes, my aspiration is that over time, all of this will become common.